I'd like to call the Tuesday, January 7th, 2014 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Butler, would you please take the roll?
Florence, Mumgard, Gaines, Glover, Jaworski, Klug, Stubbe, Ingberg.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That is correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. Mr. Hoynes, Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, I begin my report this evening by pointing out to the council that on the consent agenda tonight, item C4 specifically is an item you'll be asked to consider. It's an agreement with the Department of Roads for the overlay of 84th Street. That's simply the asphalt overlay that will run from Cedardale Road to Giles Road. That'll take place if you approve it. It's I projected about a $1.5 million project. The state pays most of it. I think we have a $250,000 contribution that's in our budget, but it seems like we just did that. But Jeff told me it was like 7 or 8 years ago that we just did that. And so they'll be starting that in March. And I bring that to your attention because about March also we'll be starting construction on 84th Street south of 370, the shovel-ready project that has been shovel-ready since 2007. Point being, a little heads up that 84th Street won't be the fastest commute this summer, but I know Jeff and Marty and other staff have went to great pains to accommodate very limited shutdowns and access with the Papillion days and the criterium and all the various things that we do in the warmer months of the year. But it's going to be a bit of a cone zone from certainly March until probably mid-July or August for the overlay, I would say. And then, of course, the other one's a 2-year project. So a lot of construction going on there. Also point out on the agenda, we have on item D1, there's the Water Wells and Wellhead Protection Act. That's really just a housekeeping circling back around, gives us a little bit more flexibility with those areas that have community wells that we've been working with over the past year or two, bringing things up consistent, and also addressing the issue we had with the makeup and recovery wells, the consistent policy that came out of committee. And so just pointing those out to you. If you have any specific questions, we'll certainly be ready to answer those during the discussion. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Klug. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Council discussion? Mr. Glover.
Just a quick question. When would the Cedardale Giles project be done if we approve it tonight?
It'll start in March, and what's it, Jeff, Marty, 60, 90-day time? It's fairly quick, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it'll start in March, probably be May, June, and probably extend to mid-August to early September.
Yes, that bid's already been approved, and so it'll just be a matter of waiting for weather for that thing to get going.
Any other council discussion? Please vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes, and mainly because this is recorded and televised, I want to specifically point out C9 that was just approved and thank council for that. I don't think people realize how much cooperation goes on amongst the cities in Sarpy County, and C9 was a continuation of an interlocal agreement where between Papillion and Gretna we're actually sharing some resources that actually helps them not have to hire some positions and reimburses us for use of that. So. Good government. Item D1, Ordinance 1683, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Papillion, Nebraska, to amend and restate the City of Papillion, Nebraska Police Pension Plan and Trust, to authorize further actions and to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and effective date thereof. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Glover. Next is item D2, Ordinance 1684, an ordinance to amend in its entirety Chapter 198 of the Papillion Municipal Code, having to do with water wells and wellhead protection and to provide for an effective date. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Stubbe. Thank you. Item F1, Ordinance 1677, an ordinance to amend the budget statement to be termed the annual appropriation bill, which was adopted on September 3rd, 2013, by Ordinance 1672 to appropriate sums for necessary expenses and liabilities and to provide for an effective date. Is there a motion to approve Ordinance 1677? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilwoman Klug. Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. We do have a closed session tonight, so we'll go ahead and do the comments next. Do we have any comments from the floor? Do we have any council comments? Just a couple of quick things from the last couple of weeks. Starting to go out and talk to the elementary schools. Went and talked to Carriage Hill fifth graders. They wanted to talk about being mayor for the day, so we talked about how to make decisions and things they might want to do and what the ramifications of those might be. Also talked to Channel 7 about the WP5 dam project, gave an update there. Mr. Hoynes and I and Carla Rupiper also attended some 911 regionalization meetings, and we'll have a closed session on that tonight. Also met with a couple of representatives from the Army, and they want to partner with the city on a potential joint Memorial Day celebration. So we're going to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. So might want to pencil that in on your calendar. And then Mr. Hoynes and I met with the United Cities, had our monthly meeting. Main item there is legislative items. The legislature is going to be going into session fairly quick, but it's a 60-day session, so a lot probably won't get done. Main topics were updates on the Tax Modernization Committee and the hearings that were held this summer. I don't think there's a lot of expectation that much will come out of that this session. If there is, it'll probably be around indications where it'll probably be around maybe changing some ag value valuations for out west, and then maybe a little bit of work with the schools in regards to property tax and state aid. Kind of seemed about where maybe things were going to be landing. And then also got some updates on Nebraska Advantage. That was the one where La Vista got hit with a large refund. And so that's getting attention down in the legislature. We might have some hopes of introducing some changes there. So that's mainly what United Cities is working on. Put Tuesday, January 14th on your calendar at 8 a.m. Sam's Club's having their groundbreaking up there by Hobby Lobby. And then if you are not aware, there's actually been a few articles in the newspaper, but downtown, where in the old Bell Hall where the junk factory was, that's been leased, and there are potential for 6 businesses in those 2 bays. 4 of them are in the process of moving in now, and they should be open in the next couple of weeks. I think the company names, one is the Sawdust Factory, which does exotic high-end woodworking. Luminations, which does handmade baby children's clothing. Anything's Country does refurbishing of furniture, and Photo Art, she does hand paintings of photographs. And then across the street in the hardware store, that's been leased as well. That's a Papillion resident opening a business called the Twisted Vine, which is art, wine, and boutique craft gift type thing. So probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks, all of those bays will be full and operating. So thanks for everything you've been doing about downtown. We have a closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to protect the public interest to discuss negotiations pertaining to 911 services? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Florence. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. I'll state for the record the purpose for the closed session is only to discuss negotiations pertaining to 911 services. The closed session will include the mayor, the city council, city administrator, assistant city administrator, city attorney, and city clerk.